So let's look at this next example. It says a true-false test consists of 10 questions. Draw a tree diagram to show the number of ways to answer the first 3 questions. So what are we doing? What's the experiment? We're answering 3 questions of a true and false test. This is 3 different possible choices that I'm making, and you always want to think of that. Because it's 3 things, not 2, I want to use a tree diagram, not a table. So with the tree diagram, always start with a center, and then we're going to make a branch for our first ones. Well, what are we doing? We're answering 3 questions. Question 1, question 2, and question 3. Each one of those questions, we have the option of true or false. So let's start establishing our tree. Our first question, I could have chosen true, or I could have chosen false. After that, I go to my question 2. Regardless of what I picked on the first question, I could pick true or false again. So that puts 2 branches off of each of those. Likewise, I move on to my third question, and regardless of what I picked on those, I have the choice of true or false again. So I complete my tree diagram as follows, with all possible outcomes. This helps me visualize. Now I follow a path to determine what it is. For instance, how do I get to the top? I had to pick true, then true, then true. This would be picking true, true, true is my first possible combination. To get to the next one, I'd have to pick a true, and then a false. The next one would have been true, false, true. We have true, false, false. False, true, true, false, true, false, 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 true, and finally false, false, false. If we count the total, there should be 8 total possible. So, what does a tree do? A tree really helps us organize our answers to see what possible ones there are. There is the 8 distinct ways of answering just the first 3 questions. Imagine if we had to draw the tree diagram for all 10 questions. This would be an extremely huge tree. Let's go on and look at example 8. Example 8 is revisiting a problem we did before. It says draw a tree diagram to determine the sample space of forming 2-digit numbers from the digits 1, 3, and 8. Again, we're choosing a 2-digit number, so we really have 2 choices. If we had 2 choices, my default would be to use a table instead of using a tree diagram, but technically a tree diagram does work. You can look at it as what's your first digit choice, and then what's your second digit choice. So when I make my first choice for my first digit, I could have picked a 1, a 3, or an 8. And then, regardless of what I picked for my first digit, I could have picked a 1, 3, or an 8 for that second digit. So let me fill those in now. Following the branches of the tree from the start, I could see my different possibilities. 1, 1, 1, 3, 1, 8, 3, 1, 3, 3, 3, 8, 8, 1, 8, 3, and 8, 8. Those are my possible combinations, the 8 possible combinations that I determined with the table. So truly, it's up to you whether you want to use a tree diagram or to use a table. But again, I use tables when it's 2 things, and I use tree diagrams when it's 3 or more.